Hey everyone, my name is KryptoCal, and welcome to the next episode of FTB Skies. So unfortunately, this episode is going to be a little bit different. Normally, I was going to be doing Occultism and Elemental Craft in this episode, but unfortunately, the files all got corrupted from that video, and I can't access them at all. So what I'm going to do is merge all of that content into this video at the beginning of the video, and we're going to go over everything that I did in that episode, so hopefully you'll all be up to speed still on everything that went down in that episode. So I made two separate locations for doing Occultism and Elemental Craft. And if I hold the travel staff in my hand, you'll see that I have an Elemental Craft travel anchor up here, and underneath here we have an Occultism one. If we go upstairs to our Elemental Craft one first by right-clicking, here is the setup that I had created for Elemental Craft. Now if you want a better and more detailed explanation and kind of playthrough of the Elemental Craft normal progression, you can go ahead and check out my All the Mods 8 series. That episode will be a great episode if you do care about learning more about Elemental Craft as a whole, but essentially what I had going on here was our goal was to make these pure crystals that I have in this drawer over here. But what made Elemental Craft so easy for us to set up here was the fact that we had access to these creative element containers by finishing this quest line down here, and that made everything so much more straightforward. But yeah, we crafted up these elemental pedestals here, which were a bit of a process in themselves. The elemental pedestals required a bit of progression in the mod if I come in here and take a look. So we had to use the element binder with some of these other materials like the swift alloy ingot, some white rock, and then also one of each of the elemental gems, which are made inside of the gem crystallizer. But because we had access to infinite of the element, it didn't take very long at all. And this is just the basic setup here I have for our automation for pure crystals. So how I'm automating this right now is I have this modular router that is basically receiving inert crystals because I have this entangled, right here, I have the modular router entangled to this block, and I'm exporting inert crystals directly to it. Now normally what I would do is it'd be sending inert crystals to all of these infusers here to turn into the water crystal and all the other elemental crystals, which are then used to create the pure crystal. The pure crystal is made by having one of each of these elemental crystals with some extra of the element with a diamond inside of this pure infusion setup. So essentially what's happening here is I'm just using these infusers on top of the container to convert them into the elementals. The modular routers here will then grab those, but because these are all filled up, they aren't actually being grabbed. So for example, if I grab a little bit of earth crystal out of here, we'll see that the earth one starts to kind of do its thing. Yeah, and once it fully turns into the earth crystal, it then is grabbed by the modular router. And I have some muffle upgrades in here, so you can't really see it, but it is filling it up slowly but surely. At the same time, these modular routers are also sending these crystals to the pedestals on the outsides here. So once all of these have an elemental crystal, if you put a diamond in the middle here, it essentially will create a pure crystal, which this drawer over here will then grab, because this right here is a modular router, which is just grabbing pure crystals. Now this is only semi-automated because I didn't actually automate the diamonds coming into that top modular router. And the reason for that is we really didn't need that many pure crystals to finish the quest. So I just added a bulk amount of diamonds up there and figured that was going to be good enough for what we would need. But if I wanted to, I could, for example, come in here, grab a few more diamonds. I'll put a stack in and you'll see it to start to work. Oh, there we go. We just saw it happen and we got one more pure crystal in the drawer. So yeah, that's essentially just how the automation here works. And that's all we really needed from Elemental Craft. And then after we finished all of the Elemental Craft stuff, we went ahead and set up the Occultism stuff. Right down here in our little Occultism room, I decorated this with a little bit of moss, glowberries, and the otherworld logs from the mod itself, so I think that it looks pretty cool. Now there were a couple of these rituals that we had to set up. This is one of the ones that we ended up using, but what I have over here is just some Demon's Dream seeds, which we needed to create the Spirit Fire, and we had to use the Spirit Fire to create a couple of specific resources from the mod. For example, the chalk that you use for pretty much all of the rituals, you have to go ahead first of all and craft up this white chalk, which takes some otherworld ashes and burn other stone. Other stone is actually just made in Spirit Fire by throwing in andesite to create this, and then you go ahead and smelt this up to get the burnt other stone. The otherworld ashes are just the otherworld logs thrown into the Spirit Fire to convert into those. And the other versions of chalk we used were the gold chalk, which involved just one piece of white chalk, gold dust, and glowstone to make this. And to get the purple chalk, it's a little more complicated. You have to get some obsidian dust, which we had, but also this crushed endstone. And this has to be the crushed endstone from Occultism. So if we come in here, we can grab our mob imprisonment tool, and we actually have one of these little guys that we summoned. Using another ritual, we summoned this little guy, who is our little crushing spirit. And he's holding some endstone right now. But essentially, this little guy would crush down our endstone and got us what we needed to make the purple chalk. Oh, he's still working. He gave me 2 more right now. You basically create the full version of the chalk by throwing this one more time through the spirit fire. But once we had that, we could draw all of our rituals out. And if we get our binding book here, we had to use a couple of these rituals here. One of them being the Abra's Open Conjure. This is what actually summoned the mob, the Afrit. And by summoning this Afrit, which we did, he actually gets summoned along with a couple of Blaze mobs, but he was a pretty straightforward fight. We just fought him down here in this room. So yeah, summoning him once gave us enough Afrit essence to complete the quest, so we didn't really have to do this again. We also had to get one of these dimensional mine shafts for a quest, and we got this by just doing the Strigior's Higher Binding ritual, using some of these materials that we already had. And all of these binding books that we used were also very straightforward, just some dye, some purified ink, and a book and quill. Purified ink is just black dye into a spirit fire. So those were the 2 things that I really did in the previous episode. So my apologies for that episode not coming live, but that's essentially the gist of what happened. And now we're going to move on to the rest of the episode. In between episodes, I actually did a little bit of changing up here. I decided to keep making a little bit more polonium because I realized that we actually needed some more polonium in order to craft up the fusion reactor components. So I've been making a little bit of polonium here in between episodes, and I think we should have enough now to do all of the crafts that we're going to need. But I'll make sure that I craft up all the required parts before I go ahead and disassemble all this again, because I don't want to have to keep resetting this up if I don't have to. So our goal is to actually come down here and make the fusion reactor. There is a ponder for this, so you can actually see what we're going to be making here. So yeah, it shows a little demonstration on how to build the fusion reactor here. So it's actually really awesome that all of these have these ponders now. But effectively what we're going to need is, I believe, about 75 of these fusion reactor frames. So let's go ahead and see if we can make those, which we can. Okay, fantastic. We'll get those started. I also am going to need a couple of ports. We're going to need 2 input ports. So we're going to need 2 ports, one for each of the fuel types that we're going to be inputting. But then also we're going to need one for the power out. So we're going to need at least 3 fusion reactor ports, which we can craft up. And finally, we need 1 fusion reactor controller. Now, I'm pretty sure we can actually use some reactor glass in this build, so I'll bring a little bit along with us as well. We're also going to need a couple more ingredients here to make this whole thing come together. We need to get a couple of these lasers, and I think I'm going to get maybe 8 of them for now. We also have to get 1 of these laser focus matrix. There we go. So we have our lasers, our laser focus matrix. We also need to get, I believe, probably 2 of these laser amplifiers, just based on the setup that we're going to be using here. And that should be pretty much everything. So I think I want to set up the fusion reactor up here. Now, one of these in the middle here, I believe, has to be the laser focus matrix. So we might as well do it on the front, right on this side. And then we can go ahead and fill in our casings on all of these. All right, so that's what it is going to be looking like. And then the final layer here, we have to just do the exact same thing as the bottom, where we fill in this kind of star shape. And there we go. So the only difference is at the very top here, we have to go ahead and place down a fusion reactor controller right here. And that has actually formed the multi-block. So now we know that we did this right. We have to add a couple of these input ports. Now I think we can use these right here, these faces. So what I'm going to go and do is probably place down the input ports right here. We'll just place down all 4 of these actually. And 2 of these are going to be input for fuel. 1 of these is going to be output for power. And how we're going to actually send this is just by using a plug coming into our network. That'll basically be bypassing its limit, and that'll be power in. So these 2 here I'm going to use for inputting our deuterium and our tritium. I don't know if these are going to directly insert, but what we can go ahead and do is just place down 1 on each of these. Can we output to the bottom? Oh, we can. Okay. So that makes this very easy, actually. Then we can just output both, and now this reactor, I believe, should have, yeah, we have deuterium and tritium here, and we can set our rate of what we want these to be. I'm going to go ahead and just set this at, like, I don't know, 50 for now. And we have to hit the enter button to actually make this apply. Now, in a previous episode, we actually filled up one of these whole ROMs with the DT fuel to start a reaction. So we actually have to grab one of these out, place it inside of our fusion reactor, and now we have to give this a massive jolt of energy to get started. which is where the lasers and the laser amplifiers come into play. Now, these laser amplifiers actually have to be facing a very specific way. The red dot has to be facing into the laser focus matrix. And then we're actually going to have a second amplifier facing once again into this amplifier from the back. So the red dot again will be pointing into this amplifier to then further amplify the laser going in. And we have to provide the fusion reactor with a jolt of 400 million FE all at once to jumpstart the reaction. So now what we're going to do with these lasers is we're actually going to send them and have them facing into each of these amplifiers just like this. Actually, let's move this front amplifier back by one block. Let's just place it right beside the other one. So then we're going to have the lasers facing inside. And now we can see this laser, because it actually charged in our inventory a little bit, it's shooting into the focus matrix, but that's actually not doing anything because we don't have nearly enough power. And how we actually set the configuration for the power is in this front laser amplifier. What we're going to want to do is set the minimum FE needed to fire. And we can set this to 400 million. There we go. So now, no, regardless, it's going to give us 400 million FE before it shoots. But what we can actually do also is to require a redstone pulse in order for this to actually fire. And the last laser going in right there. Now, the last thing that we have to do is actually give these lasers some power. So we're going to go ahead and just do that by using a point. We'll place cabling on all the faces. It accepts power only from the back. So we have to make sure we have the cabling running into the backs of all these. Just like so. And then we want to find the best way to hook these all up. I'm just going to go ahead and probably run the cabling up like this, the side, and then also we'll just bring it in from the bottom here. All right, so all we should have to do now is give this a little bit of power. We'll give it from underneath. And there we go. So these are all charging up now. And all these lasers, I believe, can put out, I think, 8,000 FE per tick. So not actually a lot, which means this is going to take quite a while to fill up properly. As you can see, we're only at 13 million, 14, and we have to get all the way to 400 before we actually can fire. We'll change a little bit of this to the reactor glass here so we can see inside of the multi-block, because it looks actually really cool when it is running. All right, I was just using a little bit of our temporal pouch to speed up our amplifiers, and now we are at over 400 million, so this should be enough power to jumpstart this reaction. So without further ado, let's start this reactor up. And there we go, it looks like it is working. Yeah, wow, so we're already producing over 2 million, and I believe that this reactor here, as long as it's given the amount of fuel that it needs, can produce up to 200 million FE per tick. But that involves you actually inputting DT fuel in separately, as well as these other ingredients. Because we're only inputting these two separately, we're not going to get the maximum rate out of the reactor, but I think what we're producing here is more than sufficient for what we're going to need. So now that this is all taken care of, I don't think we should have to worry about the reactor anymore, so we probably can take down all of this. So I've changed this to now be inserting 5 million FE per tick, because we can support that. And this is going to be producing us the maximum amount of the antimatter that we can for what input we're giving it. So hopefully that should speed up this entire process. We still are only at 1 antimatter, which is a pain, because we need 5 of these. Hopefully now that we have our power situation taken care of, before long we should see this start to creep up a little bit faster. And after a short while later, this is what I came up with for a design. I just wanted to put a little bit of something around it on top just to kind of blend it in with everything else, but it looks a little different than the actual building shape itself, but I think it kind of adds a little bit of a nice top piece to it. I mainly just wanted to cover it up with something that looked a little bit better. And we are currently producing 9.27-ish million. It's going up a little bit still, but it looks like we're kind of peaking around 9.5 million, so that is a pretty good number. If we come down to the SPS down here, I have the point set to 7. I was thinking about maybe changing it to 8 here. It's actually a better idea to have the power input be more than capable of keeping up with all of your polonium, because odds are if you don't keep it daytime all the time, you're going to have a backlog of polonium that you're going to have to burn through during the day. So now that we have an unlimited source of power, we can probably go ahead and get this 100 billion FE submitted, no problem. So yeah, this is now going up here. I can even bypass the limit, and that is going up much, much faster. And there we go, all finished. Now we are on to the final stage of the quests. This is super exciting. We're almost there. So next up, we have the Firelight ingots, the Gaia Spirit ingots, and these Flux Infused ingots. I'm pretty sure the Flux Infused ingots are pretty straightforward. They just require, yeah, some gold and redstone here. So I think we just need like 32 of these. So if I just go ahead and just manually craft these up, that shouldn't be a problem. There we go. We also have a bunch of the Gaia spirits that we can turn into Gaia spirit ingots. We need 16 of these, so we're going to need to get a little bit more Terra Steel. Thankfully, we have an infinite amount of mana now. And here we go, we have our final Gaia spirits. We have 16 of the Gaia spirit ingots. And then finally, we also needed the Firite ingots, which we should have plenty of in here, a full stack of those. And we can go ahead and now come in here and submit all of these materials. And we get a creative rune from Elemental Craft. Our next quest here is the Eyes of Stability, which requires 64 unstable ingots, 1,000 dimensional shards, and 1,000 Eyes of Ender. We can craft up 1,000 Eyes of Ender, actually, not too bad. We should have plenty of dimensional shards, which we do. And do we have any unstable ingots? We have 51. Yeah, we only have 51 of the unstable ingots, and we need a full stack. Based on this, we actually don't have any of these division signs to craft the unstable ingots, and this division sign requires us to have this one, which has no recipe at all, so I'm not 100% sure how to get this. My only other thought is we can go and just loot some more end cities. We can get the occasional grouping of the unstable ingots that way. And we only need another like 13 or so. So I think I'm going to go raid a couple of end cities really quick, and hopefully that should provide us with enough unstable ingots. Alright, so our 1,000 Eyes of Ender have finished crafting as well, so let's go ahead and submit those. Really quickly here, we can go ahead and just get that in. And we have the rest of our unstable ingots here, but we gotta do this relatively quickly so we don't explode them. Let's go ahead and submit those. And there we go, we have a creative reclamation chamber upgrade for a thermal series machine. So basically if you install this in any thermal machine that uses catalysts, it actually will never use that catalyst up, which is really cool. Now, one of the only other mods that we really haven't touched on in terms of the magic mods is Ars Nouveau. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is make a little building over here beside our little farming area. I'm thinking maybe some sort of pavilion. I don't have a schematic for this. I'm just going to probably freehand this and just add a couple details here and there. But I want to add some sort of building right here. And then hopefully we can set up all the Ars Nouveau stuff that we're going to need all in this one little building. So I'm hoping this is enough room here to do all of our Ars Nouveau crafting. But anyway, I have pinned all the items here that we're going to need from Ars Nouveau, starting with this end fiber. Now, the end fiber requires some popped coarse fruit and some blaze fiber, and we need 2 stacks of the end fiber, so we need, of course, 2 stacks of blaze fiber, which means we need 2 stacks of Mage Bloom fiber, which we get from the Mage Bloom plant, which we can get from the seed. The source gems are what we actually use to craft up this seed. So if we go ahead and grab one of these, this is basically the recipe that we're going to use to craft up our first Mage Bloom, which is done in the enchanting apparatus. So the enchanting apparatus, I think we're going to set up right here in the middle of our pavilion. So we need the enchanting apparatus here, which is just some source stone. And in case you are unaware, the source stone can be crafted by using 1 source gem and any stone block here. So we can get a few of them like that. But we need 1 enchanting apparatus. We also need 1 of the arcane cores, I believe. And we're also going to need a couple of these pedestals. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to just break out this 1 block in the middle. We're going to go ahead and place our arcane core down. And then the enchanting apparatus has to be on top of this. Now we can go ahead and place down 4 pedestals surrounding the enchanting apparatus. Place 4 source gems on the pedestals. And then finally the Mage Bloom in the middle. And it'll start to craft our first Mage Bloom seed. And there we go. We got our first Mage Bloom, which now we can use and bone meal this to get more, so it's easier to get more now. So maybe just for decoration, we can just sprinkle a couple of these Mage Blooms around here and then bone meal them up. And we can actually use them as a nice decoration plant as well, but we can get a few of these to start. I believe we need, what, 2 stacks of the Mage Bloom fiber. So let's go ahead and get a few of those stacks, and then we should be ready to go. Yeah, so we can basically go ahead and bone meal this up. Once it's mature, we can use our Fortune Hoe on this, and we actually will get an extra Mage Bloom seed back. So we can actually go ahead and plant a couple of these around, just for some decoration. But there we go, we have over a stack of the Mage Bloom, which turn into the Mage Bloom fiber. And now all we need to get is some Blaze Powder, combining this with 2 Mage Bloom, and that gives us the Blaze Fiber. Which in turn, if we get some Chorus Fruit, I'm not sure if we have enough. We have to do a little bit of smelting of Chorus, so let's go ahead and do that really quick. But we can combine 1 popped Chorus Fruit stack with 2 Blaze Fibers, and that'll give us the End Fiber. And I think that is what we need to submit. So if we go in here and go to our quest, we can submit all the End Fiber. So we have to use the enchanting apparatus twice more because we have to get a Wixie Charm and a Drigme Charm. Now, we already have some Wixie shards and some of the Drigme shards, and we can use these shards to craft up the charms in the enchanting apparatus. The Drigme one looks like it requires a couple more of the pedestals, so we might have to surround this by a few more. If we get some more pedestals out, that shouldn't be a problem. We can get 4 more out and just place them down, maybe just in the corners here. So let's get our Wixie Charm first. It takes any sapling, a brewing stand, emerald, and crafting table. We can place our ingredients all down on the pedestals, and then finally place the Wixie Charm right in the middle. There we go. Wixie Charm is completed. And finally, we need a Drigme Charm. So that should be all the ingredients that we need. Let's go ahead and throw all these in. And with the Drigme Shard in the middle, we get the Drigme Charm. Nice. So we actually have basically finished most of the Ars Nouveau stuff already. The last thing that we need from Ars Nouveau is the Thread of Gliding, which takes an Elytra, a blank thread in the middle of an enchanting apparatus with 2 air essence. Now, I only have 1 air essence, and to make more of them, you have to use an imbuement chamber with some source nearby. This questline here gives us a creative source jar, so we can actually make use of that to finish that final craft off. So I'm not going to rush into that one quite yet. Once we get access to the creative source jar, then we're going to go ahead and craft up that final air essence. So let's go ahead and submit our 1,000 generalized ender predictions. We have an absolute ton of these from our mob simulators, so we can go ahead and just submit all of those. And we also have changed our dragon simulator to be producing us the dragon breath, so we actually have plenty of this. We can go ahead and also submit a stack of this and finish our questline. And we get a creative spellbook from Ars Nouveau, which is super cool because I'm pretty sure this has access to every single spell in Ars without having to learn it or craft them. So that's actually really, really cool. And in the next questline here, we can submit our crystallized obsidian. That's already completed. And also we can go ahead and get these storage discs made up. I have the auto crafts already set for these. If we come into the pattern here, you can see I have all the patterns here already set up. It doesn't take too many extra patterns, just maybe like 9 or 10. So if we come in here, we hopefully can request 16 of these. Yep, we have everything we need. We can go ahead and start that craft. So this Golem orb, after a little bit of research, I wasn't sure because it had no crafting recipe, so I figured it was a drop or something. In the Unusual End mod, there is a boss mob that is basically a endstone golem, and you have to summon him by using a dragon's breath on top of one of those altars in those buildings in the end. So I want to go ahead and grab a little bit of dragon's breath out and see if we can summon this boss. So without further ado, let's go ahead and right click and maybe this will spawn the golem. And here he is. Oh, we have levitation, which we can, I guess, bypass by using our creative flight. But this guy is really cool. He's got 1,000 health. Wow, he is huge. But he's taking some good damage from our sword, so that's good. We're getting shocked here. And he's almost down. A couple more hits and he should be all done. And there we go. And he dropped one of the golem orbs. Nice. So we can now craft this up into the nether orb, which is what we actually need to... excuse me, I'm trying to complete quests. Anyway, the nether orb is now in our possession, so we can actually go ahead and submit that. Okay, so actually it doesn't require you to submit the nether orb. You actually get to keep it. So I have the nether orb here, and I didn't have that quest completed before, but it, I guess, auto-completes the quest for you. So that's kind of cool. But our 64K drives are also finished, so I can grab all these out of here. And I think we can just submit these. And that, yeah, they took them all, and that is completed. So we have finished everything here except for a couple of recipes. And I don't know if any of these really look that complicated, but we can go ahead and craft them up. So here is our honey glazed ham. Our shepherd's pie is done. And finally, this should be our stuffed pumpkin. And there it is. So that is all 3 of these ready to submit. And we get the creative jetpack. And I bet this thing is absolutely crazy fast. I don't even know how you could control something this fast. This is just way too quick. I believe the next episode, we're going to be probably just trying to finish off a couple small quests here and there. Things that we already really have access to. And we're looking very close to being able to finish all the way to the end here. The only thing that I can see here that we might be kind of running into a waiting game on is the 1024 singularities. Just because these do take quite a while to craft up in the matter condenser. Yeah, so before I end the episode, I'm going to go ahead and set up our production of the singularities just so that they can be working as we're completing the other quests that we're going to be checking off in the next episode. And so then hopefully we'll have them pretty much done by the time we're ready to submit them. The matter condenser doesn't have to be hooked up, I don't think, to an AE system. All we have to do is make sure we have one of the 64K parts in here, so we can go ahead and request one of these, which should craft up pretty quickly. We're also going to get a sync, and we're going to use the fluid interfaces and exporters from ID. And here's our 64K part, so we can go in here, throw this inside, and we want to basically set this to craft there we go, the singularities. So as you can see, it has to fill up to 256,000 of some item before it crafts one singularity. So I'm not sure what the fastest way to produce the singularities is going to be. One sync with 3 matter condensers, and then we're going to run all of these to the sides. Then we're going to want to put fluid interfaces on pretty much any side that we can, because that'll speed up the overall production, I think, of these singularities. We go in here and just type in like 9s all the way until we can't. Now that we have the 64K storage cell in here, we can now basically create these singularities as fast as possible. I don't think having extra of these importers is actually going to make a huge difference, but we might as well throw them on because we have access to extra sides, so it might help speed it up a little bit. I'm not 100% sure. And there we go. So all these are going up at a pretty substantial rate. And there's our first one. So now we have to just extract out of these and import them into our system. So I think what we'll do is just place down a barrel right here. We'll just set this as an import. So that should be hooked into our ME system. Hook these all in and then just send that right into the barrel. So that will then effectively just extract all of our singularities. And there we go. We have 24 singularities and they will hopefully continue to tick up in between episodes. So yeah, I'll probably just let these run a little bit in between episodes. So by the time that we come back, we should hopefully be getting close to having all the singularities that we need. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really hope you did enjoy. If you did enjoy, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to join the Discord. There's a lot of exciting news coming up that I can't wait to share with you all, so be sure to head over there and join. But that's it for me, everybody. I hope you all have a good one, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye!